to the Stranger Still podcast. My name's Kathleen.
And I'm Miles.
And we are here reviewing each episode of Season 4. This is a rewatch, so this episode may contain some spoilers for all of Stranger Things Season 1 through 4, though we'll mostly be sticking to this episode. Just be aware, if you haven't seen Season 4 yet, you're going to get some spoilers.
We may let something slip, so, we've seen it all. Go see it all and come back to us.
Exactly. Follow us on Twitter at StrangerStill22. Subscribe, rate, review on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh, yeah. Hold on to your butts, brochachos. We are talking Chapter 1 of Season 4, The Hellfire Club.
All right. Are you ready for this? Oh my gosh. We've already rewatched it a couple times and we're finally ready to review.
Yeah. There's so much to digest. It's like 9 Battle of Star Courts that we're going to have to review here. The run times, the amount of characters, just the sheer amount of stuff that happens.
Bear with us, as I'm pretty sure every episode is going to be longer than our traditional Stranger Things episode by episode.
And it all starts with the ever important paper boy.
Yeah.
Throwing out the newspapers in a very tranquil scene.
Yeah.
It's a neighborhood.
It's fall, quiet.
He's throwing out. We go to this man who picks up his papers, maybe doing some crossword. Got a pencil, by the way. He's set a little timer.
Obviously very particular. Everything's neat and tidy. Yep, sets his timer for 10 minutes.
Yeah, shaving, getting ready for the day, and we see the mirror. And it's Brenner.
He's back, baby!
or we back, because we're in 1979.
Well, that is the first thing I thought, like, oh my God, Brenner's back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So did I. I thought like, oh, he's been alive this whole time, which he has. We later find out. See, already.
Right? He really is back.
But yeah, we see is a flashback.
Yeah. Were you surprised that it started off with a flashback?
I absolutely was. I did not think or predict that we were going to go pre-1983 at any point.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And here we are in 1979.
I guess I did hope for like some of the backstory, but I really didn't think it was going to happen in this way. I'm glad it did. It was very expertly done, but yeah.
He gets to work and he goes into the rainbow room. There's a bunch of kids in there. We're thinking, we're going to get to see all the other numbers. And there's way more than 11 in there, too.
There's tons in there.
And he pulls out 12, little 12, who speaks in Magic 8-Ball. It says, are you ready? Are you ready to do some more tests?
Was 10.
Was it 10? Oh, you're right. It's 10.
Oh, gosh. I'm thinking, oh, man, what episode did I just watch?
It is 10. And he's very tender with 10. So we're like, okay, so it's not just a soft spot for 11. He brings him back there, starts doing this test, and he's drawing a cow, drawing all that, or drawing a dog versus cow.
Making sure that 10 can predict, or not predict, but see what he's drawing with his mind.
He's doing the same type of tests.
And then it goes dark. He asks where one of the other doctors is, and he does find her, and then suddenly, something's wrong, and then the alarms start going off, and he says, they're all dead.
Yeah. Shout out to 10 for still relaying what's happening.
I know, right?
10's like, they're dead. Yeah, they're both dead. 6 and Dr. Ellis. Yeah, they're gone. But I'm still checking it out for you, Dr. Brenner. Don't worry. Then all the kids die. We just get all these kids and blood everywhere. We pass out with Brenner, and then we wake up and things are still going. Alarms are going. He walks out to the middle of the daycare center, the rainbow room, and it's a young 11 with blood all over her gown. Just tons of blood dripping from her eyes. And what are we supposed to think? She's evil. Right?
She obviously looks intense. I have to tell you that when I saw this, I was incredibly crestfallen.
Yeah.
I thought, no way, they cannot make her bad in any way. This is just so not like her. This isn't her character. She would not have done this.
Yeah. And before we even see what happens, you were basically saying that is not possible. 11 couldn't have murdered a bunch of kids.
Yeah. It had to have been something else. It had to have been something different.
Yeah, I do agree. I mean, that would fundamentally ruin the fabric of the show. Because then if 11 is bad, then we also have to question, why did Mike, Dustin, and Lucas see the goodness in her when they first see her in 1983. We have to question the whole fabric of the show.
Yeah.
But I thought it was possible that maybe she exploded without knowing it. Like she was sort of a time bomb that maybe shouldn't be in a public high school right now. So it does add tension to the bullying scenes later.
It absolutely does. Yeah, definitely.
That's the opening scene. We get the credits and we start in California.
Yeah, after that incredibly intense scene, suddenly
the leaves are brown, the leaves are brown, and the sky is gray.
And we're in California, and it all seems cheery. I mean, we start off with 11. It's a voiceover of her reading this letter to Mike about how great she's doing. She's learning how to love California. But what we're actually we're not really watching all the negative stuff yet.
Well, it's weird. It kind of switches. Like at first, what she's writing is like exactly what we are seeing. Joyce is working from home. She loves the freedom. Will is painting a lot. Maybe it's for a girl. Jonathan's acting weird. He's got smelly plants, but he says it's okay, but not to tell Joyce. And then she starts saying, like, I'm doing great in school. I'm making a bunch of friends. And that's when we see the pictures are not lining up. She's getting the spit wad to the face from the Angela corner. Yeah, so it's kind of a half and half.
Yeah. Yeah, so clearly she's lying to Mike, which she was always like, friends do not lie. And here she is. We start off season 4 and she's lying through her teeth.
Yeah, well, remember what Max said. Friends don't lie, but boyfriends lie. And so do girlfriends. Boyfriends and girlfriends maybe lie. I love that we're getting the California Dreamin'. It's not the Mamas and Papas version, by the way. It's the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys.
Yeah, you did say that.
And it's them in 1986. Like they recorded this when they were in like their 40s.
Gosh, the Duffer Brothers are always staying true to the era. I love that.
Yeah, what a great one. And then Jonathan's acting weird. We see Jonathan at the wood shop, and we later see Nancy at the paper. Jonathan and Nancy are still in high school. Remember, this was a big subject for us.
Like, what? This isn't. He graduated last year. Yeah. What's going on here?
Apparently, that internship at the paper was between junior and senior year,
not after graduating.
I did not pick up on that. I don't think a lot of people picked up on that, but they never mention graduation. They never go back. They never talk about college. They never contradicted that in season 3. Yeah. And them being in high school does save us a lot of plot contrivance.
That's true.
They're just there with the kids.
Yeah, it's easier to have them there in the story in the way that they are.
Yeah.
And I love meeting Argyle. I think he is one of my favorite new characters. He's so funny.
Hold on to your butts, brochachos. Enjoy. Slow down.
So, this was one of the. This season was really one of the harder ones for me to watch because it's so much more adult and it's so much more about the struggles that you go through. And let's talk about 11.
Yeah.
I mean, it is tough for her. She's trying to seem like everything's okay when she talks to Mike, but she is going through a lot. She's doing really poorly in all of her classes, to be expected. I mean, she didn't learn traditional schooling. She learned how to use her powers.
Yeah, she didn't know the word trust 3 years ago, right?
Yeah, and I did think it was kind of weird. I mean, I guess they are trying to make her life normal, but to be put in public school when she's got to be at a mid-elementary school level as far as learning goes.
I think this is a miss by Joyce. But then again, the Byers...
It was the 80s, though, too.
And the Byers families they're such weirdos themselves. They're not going to help 11 fit in or do... they're weirdos. All of them.
They're all caught
Joyce,
up in their own...
Jonathan, Will.
I don't know.
I'm not saying that they're ignoring her. I'm saying that they themselves don't really fit into society in the first place.
Yeah,
all of them.
That's true. It was definitely really hard to watch because everybody remembers having those bullies that just made your life hell. For me, it was all in middle school. I mean, high school is good. Middle school was rough. So watching everything that 11 goes through, it hit home in a very uncomfortable way.
Yeah, you forget how cruel kids are to each other. The only unrealistic thing about a lot of these bullying scenes is how many people are involved. At some point there's 90 people all bullying 11, but the attitudes and just the direct meanness is very, very real.
Absolutely.
It's sad, but true. Let's talk about the classroom scene where she does a presentation, and let's also kind of pivot to the schoolyard as well, just kind of keeping with the 11 thread.
Yeah, to make things even more sad. So 11 gets in front of the class. She's the class project, who is your hero, and you're supposed to pick some historical character, and 11 picks Hopper, which obviously we are all still just devastated from possible. Well, we knew by this point we didn't actually lose Hopper because we've seen the trailers, but like we know that she thinks that she lost Hopper, and so it was just devastating to watch that. She gets up there, she talks about how he saved the town, and Angela's just a bitch.
The technically correct police.
I'm sorry.
It's no questions. I get that, but I do have a question.
I thought this was about historical characters. Yeah.
Man, that's brutal. And this is the only episode that Hopper is not in, which I think, I'm glad they did that to make us feel the impact, at least for an episode.
Yeah. And then, you see her so close to tears and you think like, yeah, that could have been me up there. Like, obviously, not the same situation, but.
The way that she laughs at the more like a diarrhea joke. Somebody says that in 11, or Jane, she laughs at it too, like trying to be. That's just so heartbreaking. That feels real. That reminds me of my high school experience. It's just like you want to be in on the joke. They're making fun of you, and you're like laughing with them. It's very awkward. That was just heartbreaking. And she's also dressed like Joyce. What are you dressing 11 in? Jeez.
I know. I mean, you no longer have any of that confident 11 when she's going shopping with Max and she has those really cool outfits. Yeah. She is now she's dressed like Joyce. Yep. Very unsure, very loose kind of clothing. Like you can tell she's really unsure of herself. And the further we watch into this episode, the more we see that she's failing all of her tests that she's telling Mike that she's doing great on. She's told loudly by the teacher, I'm really disappointed in you. Yeah. See me after break. Come on, did you have to really do a shout out in front of the entire classroom?
That happened to me before.
Really?
Yeah, that happened. And it happened to me sophomore year. Then another one happened to me once when I passed one of those standardized tests, and the teacher said, and believe it or not, Miles passed as well. And I still remember it. I was like, come on.
It's
in front of the whole class.
Inappropriate, really.
Yeah,
that's bad on the teacher's part.
Yeah, well, I've since killed him and put him in my basement. This isn't live, is it? No, I'm just kidding.
We don't even have a basement, Miles.
Then where did I put him? So out in the yard, though, later, she gets another run-in with Angela and her group, and they crush her diorama. One of them kicks it over to the other one. The other one smashes it. Trips her. It's just heartbreaking. This is in the middle of the courtyard where everybody's looking, and 11, Angela! And she uses her powers. I love her scream.
Did you for a moment think that she was actually going to use her powers?
I didn't. I remember that she didn't have them. Yeah.
Oh, that was like that half a second of hope that she would have had something come back.
Let me ask you, say 11 does have her powers. What happens to Angela here? Now we've seen 11 just push people, push them out of the way, push them so hard that goes through a brick wall. But we've also seen her split things, rip a meat flayer in half. We've seen her explode heads. What form of power was Angela about to get here?
Yeah, and then what would have happened to their lifestyle situation here?
I think Angela's head is just a goo across the courtyard.
Oh, God.
Just splattered, and her lifeless body falls down, and everyone's just running.
And then, to make matters worse, of course, everybody starts laughing at her because this is incredibly strange for somebody to do.
I thought the actress Angela did a really great job with the tough line. What the hell?
And then, even to make matters worse, the teacher comes down, and this I could relate to as well because, initially, 11 says, "Oh, I tripped." She doesn't want to blame anybody because, you don't. You're afraid that things are just going to get worse if you oust the person that's bullying you. But of course, great teacher realizes that it absolutely was Angela takes her away, but Elle doesn't say anything, so Angela holds that against her.
Yeah, they hold it against her that 11 doesn't stick up for her at that point. God, they were so mean. But shout out to Angela for remembering the squirrel's name. She goes, did that help Mr. Fibley? That actually was the name that 11 called that squirrel, Mr. Fibley.
Well, of course she would remember that.
Okay.
She was like isolated in this cabin forever.
No, Angela remembered it.
Oh.
When Angela said, did that hurt Mr. Fibley? It's like, you got the squirrel's name right? Redeemed. Okay. Let's shift over to Joyce. Let's stay in California, kind of collect the California crew before we go back to Hawkins.
Californians.
Joyce is working from home.
Yep, and she receives a package from Russia.
I love the music that comes on there, the Russian nightingales.
Now, I was absolutely delighted by this storyline because it brought Murray back into it. And he is just, this season, he is one of my favorite characters. He is just hilarious to me. So she's now selling encyclopedias from home. Encyclopedias, what a flashback.
Yeah, and she's about to make a sale to Mrs. Erkenbreich.
Mrs.
But she hangs right up on that sale to open this package.
Carol? Yep, so she opens this box that's from Russia, and what is it but a Russian China doll?
Yeah, that has nipples.
That has,
I love when
it has
Murray
nipples.
gets in the tub right as she said that. He's like, oh!
Yep, so of course she calls Murray, who's just finished karate lessons.
Oh, that's why
that whole scene, the way that they do that. He comes home, he's just had karate lessons as like a 45-year-old man, and he pours himself a drink, makes himself an ice bath, and like strips himself while he's talking to Joyce.
Yeah, well, he's living fat off the reports he sold, shutting down the lab, so he's doing just fine.
Yep. And then true to Murray, like this could be a threat. It's the KGB.
Get something heavy, smash. We're going to tie it to something. We're going to drop it because it might be a bomb.
Yep.
The dropping of the can is hilarious to me. Not just Joyce out there doing that where the kids like have to be ushered away. Joyce!
Yep. So he tells her to crush it. She, of course, smashes the doll and she finds a ransom letter. And right there, you see her smile and you know that she knows that Hopper is alive. Such a sweet moment. Just that little smile that she gives.
Yeah. And
very
their
well acted.
adventure begins. Yeah, well, it's Winona. Winona doesn't get a ton to do this season, considering the run times.
Oh, yeah, she doesn't.
But she's an absolute star when she does have something.
Absolutely.
Let's go over to...
She truly is a star.
Well, that is true. She is a star actress. Jonathan's over in woodshop being a mopey dick.
With Argyle.
Who's making a weeder.
And who is a great friend. I mean, you
Argyle's
continue
amazing.
to see that the further into the season we go. He's like, for a stoner, he is incredibly intuitive.
Yeah.
They're in woodshop making birdhouses, and he is asking why Jonathan is moping around because Nancy is ditching him because she didn't come for spring break.
Yeah. And at this same time, Nancy is getting questioned by Fred, who's curious. Why isn't he coming here? You're the number one desired girl in Hawkins.
And I have to say that like the Duffer Brothers, they did an excellent job. Like they clearly had this scene to show that there is unrest between Jonathan and Nancy, that things aren't perfect, even though the whole conversation is both Jonathan and Nancy talking about how their relationship is perfect and making excuses why the other isn't there.
Such a good point. What a great way to show that things aren't perfect by having them both talking about things are perfect
and all answering the same questions.
Same questions.
Yeah.
And the music is picking up in tempo there. It's just like filling us with anxiousness, and we know something is right or something is wrong.
So we have like I don't know about you, but I loved the way that they were reintroducing the characters. It's like it's been a long break. It's like we get to say hello to everybody again. It's really nice.
Me too. Let me ask you this: how did you feel about California? Because before this, I was nervous. We've only taken one extended trip out of Hawkins in Stranger Things history. That was to Chicago, and what didn't go well. But California, it's a little different. I felt like it still felt like Stranger Things, even though it wasn't Hawkins.
Yeah, I suppose you're right, but the root of it is I always wanted them to be back together. I felt like I feel like everybody needs to be in Hawkins, which I think we're going to see that happen. Yeah. Well, in season 5.
Yeah,
but
well,
that's a ways away.
Yeah. Well, we're on the West Coast, so it was nice to get some 1986 West Coast
Bring
stuff.
in the West Coast.
Yeah. Let's go back to our favorite small Indiana town, Hawkins. Mike is getting ready for his flight or getting ready for school. He's got 30 seconds.
And I love that even though Nancy and Mike have clearly gotten so much closer through seasons 1 through 3, you still have that sibling angst against each other. Nancy busting in, Mike, if you don't get ready in 30 seconds, I swear I'm leaving you here.
They're all yelling at Mike.
Yep.
Karen is like, you can be home at 9. Why? Because I said so. And Ted's like, or no, sweetie pie.
Your flight's at 6 a.m. And that's when we find that he's going to California to visit 11 and Will. I mean, 11. Yeah. To go visit 11.
For spring break. And Dustin is trying to have Susie change his grade.
Successfully has Susie change his grade.
They hack into the school system. Hackers.
I know.
Well, yeah, we're just meeting there's so many people to meet, Kathleen. I think that's one of the great things about Stranger Things is how quickly they do this and for how hard it is. We're catching up with like 11 heartfelt characters that we love.
Yes.
Steve
and we've
Robin.
waited a long time for this.
3 years.
So I feel like it was necessary to do this. We wanted to see all of our characters again.
Mm-hmm. Steve and Robin are riding in the car. They're picking up right where they left off, though they're not high anymore. But
Steve is, of course, complaining about girl problems. Robin's like, oh, of course, girls again. Yeah. You don't even know what it's like.
I love that Robin can't keep track of the names. The word she says is one I wrote down. Steve's, your love life is one of labyrinthian complexity. That's a fabulous word, Robin.
And like Steve, you can see the nice guy Steve again talking about how she needs to pursue this girl that she's got a crush on, Vicky.
Yeah. And they're both giving the same advice, be yourself, be yourself. Yeah. But Robin makes the point that I have a harder time because if I ask out the wrong girl, I'm a town pariah. Mm-hmm. Whereas you just, another fish in the sea that is gone. Yep. And Steve is like, don't worry, this is the right girl. She paused it at the right spot in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
You know who paused it at that time? And people who like boobies.
Yeah. He said, boobies. Stop saying boobies. And then Steve does just add one more, boobies. We also meet Max, and she's not in a good spot. She's
very
grieving.
Sad.
She skipped a meeting with the counselor, with Miss Kelly.
She's got her headphones on all the time. This is when we're first introduced to Running Up That Hill, episode 1.
Yeah.
Yep.
I love the transition. We transition. Yeah, that's definitely the theme of season 4. We transition from 11's classroom presentation to Max walking through the halls.
Yeah.
So that the music starts with 11, goes to Max, and ends with Max turning off the tape player. Miss Kelly asking Max to turn off the tape player.
Yeah, which is what another podcaster that we did an episode with, Ashley.
Yeah.
What's her?
Ham Radio.
Yeah,
she pointed that out on our Volume 1 review.
Yeah, what an excellent moment, like music moment right there. Just really expertly done.
I love that Stranger Things, like the music is like it's on the soundtrack and it's loud, but it ends so many times it ends with like a real world thing, like Max turning off the tape recorder, or when, the California Dreamin' song, it's going through the whole time 11's reading the letter. It ends with Nancy slamming open Mike's door. Like it suddenly ends right there.
What do you call that where sometimes it's in the episode and sometimes it's not?
So it
starts with a D.
Diegetic and non-diegetic. Yeah, they switch between that expertly. The Duffers are masters of that. But Max is popping aspirin. She's got headaches. Mm-hmm. Billy's dad is gone. Her mom's drinking. They're in a new place. The place sucks.
And we find out everything that Max has really been going through when she goes to see the counselor later, when she's obviously denying everything the counselor is saying. But have you been sleeping well? Of course. No, she hasn't. She's been having headaches. She's been having nightmares. Her mom's drinking. Her stepdad's left. She is in true mourning, going down a dark hole. Yep. And this nice counselor is trying to help her, but she is just not ready to open up.
Yeah, I've seen some unpleasant Umbertos on the internet say this doesn't make sense. Why is Max so upset?
What?
And they say like, well, she was singing Never Ending Story with Lucas, in the epilogue, whatever. It's like, to me, that makes sense. That is a very common thing with grief. While everyone is fresh in the death of Billy, you're fine, but everyone else has moved on and Max can't. And so that separation happens. It feels very, very real.
You having lost your mom, I think like that gives you deeper understanding.
Yeah. That's absolutely where I pull that from, because it does. It's at first it's nice. You got the support. Everyone can relate with you. And as they move on, it actually creates like a gap between you that is sometimes tough for many people if you don't talk about it, which Max is clearly not doing. Her acting, by the way, in that scene, it's
phenomenal.
Sadie,
Through the whole thing is phenomenal.
Sadie Sink, Millie Bobby Brown, they carry this first episode. And I knew that when we got to the later things in Stranger Things that we would get to high school pariah, classic 80s high school, like being bullied or being the loner or something like that. I always figured it would be like Dustin or Mike or Lucas or Will, but for it to be Elle and Max, I just don't think we appreciate how good these actors that Sadie Sink and Millie Bobby Brown do. Like, if it wasn't them and we didn't have world-class actors in these parts, then we would be complaining about some of these plots. I truly believe that. There's a multiverse where everyone's like, oh, there's getting bullied.
Mediocre.
None of it's realistic. Yeah, but they do so good. So, Max sees Chrissy coming out of Mrs. Kelly's office too.
Yeah. So let's go right into meeting Chrissy for the first time. Oh boy, do we meet Chrissy in this episode.
And we meet the quote unquote problem of the episode, which is something, or the season. She's in the bathroom
crying. Max asks to help and she, Chrissy tells her to go away. And then ominously, you hear Chrissy's mom, her voice calling out to her, "You ready to try on the dress again? I loosened the back for you." And then the voice changes into this like creepy, monstrous sound. And you see these like creepy feet underneath the stall of the bathroom. And you're thinking like, what the hell is going on? So what did you think in that moment?
I was extremely confused because there's no upside down imagery at all. There's no snowflakes, there's no vines, so I was like, what is she, something different? Is Chrissy gonna be consumed by something different? I was super confused at that time.
Yeah, I too was with you. I thought like, oh gosh, the mind flayer is back, and he is like consumed her the way that he consumed Will.
Yeah, but there's none of the stuff.
Yeah, so it was crazy. Like you didn't know what to expect. You had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah, and I gotta say, they didn't have to do much to make that bathroom creepier. It's creepy before even the thing. It's just when they're just washing their hands in there. Well, it's all like dark and lime green.
That was like the style. I mean, my high school, some areas of it were like older, stuck in the 80s. And those lights are really like yellow, dim, which makes everything look so dingy. It's absolutely a part of the times. Like that's just kind of how it was. But yeah, super creepy. She's screaming and then suddenly like it disappears and nothing's there. And you're like, what did we just see here? What happened?
Yeah, I was definitely fully confused by that. All right, let's pivot over to the pep rally.
The pep rally.
At the assembly.
Yep.
Lucas is on the basketball team.
Yep, and he's got a heck of a basketball captain. Another new character, Jason, who comes off not so bad at first, though we learn to hate him later.
Oh, I hated him right here. Hated him right here. The shout out to Chrissy, "I love you, babe." The way he uses the death, Heather,
Yeah,
Billy.
the deaths of all of the people that died the previous year in the mall fire.
Yeah, exactly. He uses that death he makes it about himself, because when we were down by 10,
into an inspirational speech for them to like win their basketball game.
Yeah.
It is like dirty.
Yeah, there's some narcissism here. Like he thinks everybody cares about his and Chrissy's relationship. They're like royalty or something. He's like, "I love you, babe." It's like, oh God.
But you know what? That's the kind of thing that like people listen to. I mean, my first thought of him was like evangelical, preacher. Yeah, that's what I thought when I saw him, and I was like, oh, one of these guys.
Yeah. I love Lucas is like, as soon as he mentions Billy, Lucas like looks directly at Max, and Max and Dustin and Mike, they're like, this is a little sleazy that he's bringing this up. Well,
and we definitely feel that as the audience.
Yeah. We then meet another new character. Go to the lunchroom.
Who we love.
We meet Eddie, who gives his own speech in the lunchroom. The devil has come to America. Dungeons and Dragons, at first regarded as a harmless game of make-believe, now has parents and psychologists concerned.
And you were saying like this was a real thing of the 80s.
The Satanic Panic was real. You know, it kind of morphed into being about music and then about video games. But before that, it was about Dungeons and Dragons, and you know you had to get the devil out of your house, and you know these kids are, you know, everything that's happening is bad is not our fault, not our fault as parents. Surely it's all these games' fault. And I look, Eddie takes the opposite view. Forced conformity, that's what's killing the kids, which I love. That's the opposite of Jason.
Yeah,
Jason wants you to conform to the same status quo that's been there since the 50s. You love the captain of the sports team and the head cheerleader, and we're better than you, and you serve us, and Eddie represents the opposite of that.
Yeah. An amazing speech. And like another kudos to Eddie is we find that Eddie has taken Mike and Dustin and Lucas, well, though he's on the basketball team right now, under his wing, his lost little sheep. He has given them a home in the Hellfire Club.
Yeah, I admit during this scene, I was like, oh, is this going to be kind of a guy that's like an antagonist to them? But no, he's their savior. He is the one that they look up to. I thought that was really sweet. And Mike and Dustin have to ask Eddie to postpone because of Lucas's championship game. They have to postpone so that Lucas can play later. I love Dustin's like, me and Mike, we're talking, you know, shooting the shit.
Oh yeah, of course Eddie says no.
Yeah, Eddie says no. And I do have to think, like, who is letting down who here? Should Lucas be dropping the basketball team to go play Dungeons and Dragons, or should Mike and Dustin have said, no, we got to go to the game, so we're also not able to do Hellfire?
I think it's like, I don't think there was any right answer. It's just it's just a part of them growing up. I mean, you're going to find that you have different interests, and it's going to pull you apart from your old friends at times. Of course, they stay friends, thankfully. Yeah. But I think it's like a natural thing. Yeah, it was a letdown for them. He had the commitment to do the Hellfire Club, but he also has a commitment to the basketball team.
And I mean, as a sport, I love how they're like, another game? How is that possible? They don't get it. But you do have to admit, you don't like make a plan assuming that you're going to be in the championship. Like, that game's not scheduled. The tournament is, you know, I mean, maybe you should, but you don't have to. You know, it's not a sure thing. It was possible that Lucas did not have a basketball game that night had they not come back from 10 against Christian State or whatever they were playing.
Yeah.
I love Lucas's arc here a little bit. You know, I don't want to be picked on anymore.
Yeah.
You know, that felt very real as well, from middle school to high school.
You didn't want to be the nerd. You didn't want to be the outsider. You did want to fit in. You did want to be popular. And he finally is like on the verge of having the chance, being on the basketball team. He's got another set of friends. He's starting to get accepted. Of course, he's been on the bench most of the time. But he is fitting into another group, and he wants his friends to fit into that group as well.
Yeah. Well, he's on the bench, on the varsity team as a freshman, so he's doing well.
Oh.
He's doing well.
Oh, good point. Okay.
Yeah. So the Mike and Dustin need to find a replacement. They ask everybody. Mike's scene asking Nancy is my favorite. He just bursts in, and Nancy's just like, what the hell,
yeah,
Mike?
Just gives him the look.
But they eventually find Lucas's younger sister. And we get this, we all set up to this huge scene, the Sinclair twin triumphs, where Lucas makes a shot. Lucas makes a shot and Erica rolls the die. We get the Hellfire Club and the basketball game pinging back and forth. There's like 1,000 things about this sequence that I wish I could bring up every one. Just never, all I have to say is never take this show for granted. How crafted with love It is. You could watch that scene. There's just so many performances, so many little things about the way that these two things are intertwined.
It was so fun to watch. I mean, you have like the two winners of the scene are the two Sinclairs.
Yeah, I love
you
that.
have Lucas, who's finally pulled off the bench and he's put in the game, and it's up to him to make the last shot. And then you see Erica, who Eddie has accepted into the team because she's a firecracker and she's awesome. And it's up to her role to take down Lord Vecna.
Lord Vecna.
Yep, the introduction of Lord Vecna.
Yeah, this is we get national anthem on both. We get Tammy Thompson national anthem, which I love. That was the moment. I think I shared this on our Volume 1 review, but I felt like, okay, we're back.
Yeah.
We're back. Tammy Thompson, which was one of my favorite ever Stranger Things moments when they I need you more than ever when they were singing that in the bathroom stall at the mall.
I love that they did not have to bring Tammy Thompson into this show, and I love that they did that, the nod to the previous season.
And then Robin uses Steve's joke to get a hint with Vicky, her crush, so they're standing together in the bleachers in the band.
Yeah.
And he says, sounds like a Muppet. And Vicky goes, oh, totally. And then Robin almost says that she has a massive crush on Tammy, but ends up chickening out and not revealing that she has a crush on now the person standing next to her, Vicky.
Which I mean, it must have been so hard for anybody in that situation in the 80s to like have a crush on somebody of the same sex and be so terrified to share it, because like Robin says earlier, she would become a social pariah if, the person that she admits her crush to doesn't feel the same way.
Yeah. And it's very difficult, not just in the 80s, but in high school too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who wait to come out until they're out of high school. So yeah, it's very tough. Tammy Thompson singing the national anthem actually morphs into, it's not Jimi Hendrix. People always say, the Jimi Hendrix national anthem. That is not the Woodstock Jimi Hendrix national anthem. What is playing there? They couldn't afford that.
What is it?
It's somebody else. It's not Hendrix.
Some guy on
but
electric
it
death.
is a great entrance by Erica, who's got the American flag draped on. Can't spell America without Erica.
I was just about to say that. You stole that line from me.
So Lucas gets put in. By the way, Lucas, his style, looking like Jerry Rice. Looking like 1986, 1987 San Francisco 49ers wide receiver Jerry Rice.
But that's football.
Look it up, people.
That's football, babe.
Yeah, that's football. Well, basketball, the actor Caleb McLaughlin said he chose number 8 for Kobe Bryant.
Oh, really?
As a tribute. So I thought that was sweet.
That is super sweet. I did not know that.
Yeah. Though Kobe would not have stood in that huddle and allowed the play to be called for someone else. Kobe's taking that shot. So Lucas, you got a ways to go. But Jason says, no, I got to take the shot. No. He like overrides the coach.
Right.
And he says, no.
And he misses.
I'm taking the shot. And he misses. Meanwhile, Erica and them they're got a decision to make about whether or not they're going to attack Vecna. And they're saying, to the death, to the death. And they're like quickly back. They're like, we got to retreat.
Because they have a miss. Their first shot with the dice is a miss.
Yeah. And there's no shame in running. Yeah. And Dustin, never tell me the odds. Star Wars reference right there.
Nice.
That's the Han Solo when C-3PO says, the odds of... Never tell me the odds. Dustin rolls and doesn't get it right as Jason shoots and misses. Then it's the Sinclairs. Lucas is getting the rebound. Red team, why aren't you boxing out? Why isn't there someone closing on Lucas? If my brother was here, he'd be criticizing the basketball team, the red team's strategy on defense. Don't clump under the basket. But anyway.
I wasn't picking up on that part.
Yeah, great pivot. He shoots the ball. Erica's rolling the dice. This is their last chance. And it's like 45 minutes. It seems
oh my gosh. They like draw this out so far. And you almost think it's like too far, but it is just far enough. And then Lucas makes the shot. You can even see it bounces on the rim and Steve's lips mouth it. No.
Yeah. That's what I love about it. The shots of Steve, the shots of Mike, like shots of everyone, every one of those Hellfire Club members, all those actors, which I love them as well, the side actors.
Yeah.
Like just let's luxuriate in this. That's why I call this sequence, it's just made with such love.
And they both come out victorious.
Yep.
Lucas makes the shot. Erica makes the roll. And then it gets a little sad because, Lucas is on a high. They're carrying him out of the stadium and he looks over and he sees all of his friends coming out from the Hellfire group and they have just had so much fun. And he sees that and he sees that he's separate from his friends. And it's just like that little sad moment there.
It's so good, too, because the thing that's separating Lucas from getting over to them is the fact that he can't leave the team now. He made the game-winning shot.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, Patrick's like, come on, man, you got to go. We're going over there. It's like Lucas is almost being swept away at this point. It's kind of out of his hands, and he's seeing them celebrate. Yeah, I thought that was really sweet. So,
and you do think, you do have a fear that he is going to be splitting off from the group.
Yes.
What's going to happen here?
Yeah, because of his speech. I don't want to be a nerd anymore. Yeah, so that carries through the next couple episodes.
Yeah.
All right, let's close it out with the final thread. Eddie and Chrissy. Chrissy wants to buy drugs.
Yep. She shows up in the woods and you're thinking, after what you just went through in the bathroom, what are you doing?
I don't even want to go into the woods right now.
And then you see this creepy ticking grandfather clock embedded in this tree and she's freaking out. And then suddenly out pops Eddie.
Yeah.
Want to buy some drugs?
Oh, the clock with the spiders and stuff. Again, it's not upside down. It's not the vines. It's not the flakes.
No. And you know what, though? This turns into actually a really sweet scene because you think Chrissy is obviously she's the queen of Hawkins High, as Eddie so puts it. And you think she could end up being a little snotty or whatever, but they have a really heartfelt moment when Eddie is like, do you remember me? Yeah. Middle school. My band was the something coffins.
Corroded
coffins. And it's just it's this really sweet moment. They have this really heart to heart, and then Eddie says, "Okay, well, I'll offer you a discount on drugs."
Flattery works with me.
Yep. And then she asks for something stronger.
Yeah, you're so right. Chrissy goes from the terror of that vision to laughing and feeling comfortable, and we're with her because we're also being charmed by Eddie. This is a great little scene. I was hoping for a Chrissy, Jason, Eddie love triangle. That's what I was thinking at that time, before she snap at the bones later. But I was thinking ooh, we get a little love triangle here.
Yep.
So that sucks. Chrissy and Eddie will not get to be together.
Yeah. And so after the game is when Christy meets back up with Eddie to get the stronger drugs. They're going to do Special K, which Max sees, by the way, from her window. She sees from the trailer park Chrissy, of all people, arriving at Eddie's house, known drug dealer.
Yeah, what is the cheerleader doing here at Eddie's trailer? Yeah.
And Eddie is thrilled, by the way. He's that nervous, this girl, this really popular girl that I like is here in my house and oh god, no, I can't find the drugs, I have to go look for them.
Yeah, and I love the scene as a setting too. I just love the way the trailer park is lit. It's very Stranger Things. Yeah, all the different blue and orange lights. Yeah, Eddie, it's here somewhere. Just very realistic.
Yeah. So he goes, he leaves her in the living room and he goes into his room and kisses his guitar.
As you do.
As you do. And meanwhile, leaves her in the living room standing there, and suddenly the lights start to flicker.
And we know that's the first touch of Upside Down. We're oh, we know that.
Yep. She hears the clock start to tick. She calls out for Eddie. She starts looking for him and is suddenly transported into her own house.
When she goes in the room and he's not there, I was like, what?
Right? What is happening? And it's her mom again, hemming a dress, making it bigger for her.
Yeah, I'll let this out.
Yeah, I'll let this out for you. You're gonna look beautiful.
I'm gonna gut you like a fat pig. Actually, I think that's at the bathroom scene. But
And then her mom turns into this like creepy, scary monster.
Mm-hmm.
She starts running from him. The worst part to me of this part of the scene was the dad downstairs.
But there's just everything. His mouth is just sewn shut.
His eyes and his mouth is sewn shut, and he's like screaming out. That was like a nod to older horror movies for sure. That just like that freaked me out. I could deal with the mom thing, but the eyes sewn shut, it was super, super creepy. And she's running, and this is when we have our first view of Vecna.
Yeah, then we get this asthmatic, slimy son of a bitch.
Asthmatic, slimy son of a bitch.
Who, as the subtitles put it, has a menacing, guttural growling. Chrissy, it's time for your suffering to end.
Damn. Like that is, I mean, I remember that line. I say it all the time around the house. It is a fantastic line.
It is time for yours. It's just like before you like get snails out of the yard. It's time for your suffering.
Yeah, I actually did say that. These darn snails were eating all my plants, and I was collecting them to throw them to my chickens so they would be eaten.
Snail. It is time.
It really is like, I mean, the Duffer Brothers creating these scenes that everybody is going to remember.
Yes.
It is so memorable.
Yeah. And the other side is memorable too. We flip over. She's in the trance and Eddie's going, wake up. Yeah. I don't like this.
That's
Chrissy.
what was so crazy. So you see all of this happening and then Eddie comes out and she's in a trance and you're like, oh, you think like Will. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Yeah.
It's Will. It's the Mind Flayers got Will.
Yeah.
But then shit gets real. Oh my God. When you start seeing her body lift into the air and what you've just seen in her vision is like the Mind Flayer's hand going over her face.
Vecna's hand.
Vecna's hand. Of course, he didn't have a name at that point.
Well, yeah, we didn't know what it was.
Yeah. The worst part though. So she starts living in the air and then suddenly her body slams into the ceiling. Eddie, I don't like this. I don't like this.
Wake up, Chrissy.
Oh my gosh, her body's slamming. And then like, I never in a million years would have expected this. Her bones starting to snap. Oh.
Yeah, that was unexpected. She's going to die. Her bones are snapping. And what does it end with? Her eyes
sinking
exploding
into her head.
Sinking in and then exploding. Or is it called it like wet squelch?
Ew.
That's what the subtitle says. A wet squelch.
Oh, it was by far the most horrifying scene Stranger Things has had in all of the seasons so far. Everybody, I think, was taken aback.
Yeah, I love the memes of this. Like so many people just with like memes of like, dear God, like sitting up at night, SpongeBob with like super scared in his bed, just like dear me after watching episode 1.
We were shook, babe. Yeah. We were shook.
Do you want to tell the story of what happened to us? We got up, took a little break. You opened the window. You opened the blinds.
Oh my God.
At a coincidental time, our neighbors had come over to give our dog a treat. And they hadn't even rung the doorbell yet. And they were just right there. And we both went, ah!
we scared the heck out of them. Yeah. They scared the heck out of us. We literally had just finished watching this episode. And I'm like, I need to let some light in here because that was creepy as hell. Yeah. And as Miles said, I opened the blinds and then boom, there they are just staring into the window.
They probably think about that.
Yeah, we scared the crap out of them.
I was so loud. Oh, man. So her eyes have, and the credits. The eyes blow up and the credits hit.
And that was it.
All right. We end every episode with a feeler moment from Kathleen, a music moment from Miles, and a final question.
You're starting to break your rules
I know.
here.
Every episode I'm going to have 2 music moments. I'm sorry. It wasn't possible to narrow it down.
All right.
And then a final question. But let's start with your feeler moment, Kathleen.
Okay, so I already talked about this scene quite a bit. My feeler moment was when 11 is humiliated in front of the whole school after she tries to use her powers. You can just physically feel what she's emotionally going through, that pit in your stomach, that sinking feeling, that absolute humiliation. You're in front of everybody. You've just done something that was like so socially unaccepted. Yeah. And then everybody starts laughing at you. And then like it just continues to get worse too, because when the teacher comes and takes everybody away and she's sitting there crying on the ground and Will comes to help and she picks up the little
Mr. Fibley? Oh, no, Hopper. Yeah.
She picks up Hopper and he's like broken in half. And so it was just like that whole emotional weight was, oh man, we've rewatched it 2 times now. Oh, yeah. 3 times. Yeah, we've rewatched it 2 times now. And it's such a hard scene for me to watch because it's so emotionally painful.
What do you think about Will in that? He's kind of like hesitant to go help her.
I definitely feel that, but I mean, I can't even get mad at Will because he's obviously going through something too. Yeah. And being in that same situation, you want to fit in. Like you were saying, like she's laughing at the jokes. Mm-hmm. He doesn't also want to be a social pariah by like, standing up in front of the whole school. And now he's the target.
Yeah. And he comes over there and we'll fix it together. Okay. We'll fix it together. Like there's just something really they're going through it. And Joyce is missing this. Mm-hmm. Joyce is not picking up on this.
No.
Music moment. I want to start with a score track called Teens, which is the kids' theme.
How many music moments do you have? Real
2.
Quick? Oh, okay.
2. Okay. And I'll have 2 every time. I won't go over that. Teens, a re-recording of Kids, which is our first score track we ever hear in season 1 after the scientist dies and we go to that original Dungeons & Dragons game. We seemingly always get a rendition of Kids in the opening chapter. We get one in season 2 with them all stealing the money to get arcade money. And we get it in season 3 when they're setting up the antenna to call Susie. But in season 4, we get this different variation of the kids theme, and it happens as we meet Mike. We first come to Hawkins and he's getting yelled at by his entire family, and as Dustin is cheating, hacking into the school database with Susie. It is a little bit more adult, a little darker. The tone of the main hook is a little less warm, a little less fuzzy. It's almost like a fluty synth sound that's playing the main theme. I guess for lack of a better word, it's more late 80s. It's more, the warmness comes from those vintage synths. This is more advanced synthesizer stuff. Like this is a little bit more technology. And like listen to the main theme with the flute. The flute synth sound.
I was gonna say that's a flute?
Not a real flute. It's just a little different than the warm sound we get.
Gosh, and see, like these are things that I never would catch. I mean, I obviously know the melody, but I wouldn't have caught how different it is from the original.
Yeah, it's cool that they kind of recomposed their most famous theme besides the title theme. And my other music moment is along the same lines of your feeler moment here. It's when Angela has tripped Elle and they've destroyed her diorama, and 11 is going to stand up for herself, and she's going to shatter all of Angela's bones in front of everyone at the courtyard.
Explode her head.
We actually get the same exact music that plays when she throws Billy through the brick wall in season 3, chapter 4, the sauna test. So let's listen.
How did you catch that?
Let's listen real quickly to the sauna test. And now let's listen to 11 about to destroy Angela.
Angela!
So I was actually listening to you listening to these parts, And I could hear you comparing them.
Mm-hmm.
And for a second, I thought I could hear Billy screaming.
Yeah.
And for a second, I thought that was actually in the scene, but it was just so subtle that we didn't initially hear it.
Yeah.
Dang, that's crazy.
It is slightly remixed. The drums are definitely, the percussion's definitely going way more in the Billy version than it is in the Angela version. So, but it's just really cool that they used that same thing, which we're subconsciously seeing Elle use in her one of her most heroic moments.
Yeah.
In this moment where she doesn't have her powers and is expecting to have them.
Did you just recognize the song in that moment? Or just, how did you catch that?
Somebody I wish I could give them credit. Somebody on Reddit said like trying that sauna test move or something on it. And I don't know if they recognized that it was the same score track, but they definitely picked up on this.
Wow.
So
that is really cool.
Final question. Has mystery returned to Stranger Things?
100%. Yeah. This whole season, the whole season 4, we're all left with questions the entire time. Like, what's going to happen next? What's happening now?
Yeah. So you say that there is mystery, but do you believe that there was a lack of mystery season 2 and 3? Because a lot of people say that season 2 and season 3, the reason it wasn't that great is because it was sort of like we kind of know what's going to happen. I think season 4 is the most mysterious since season 1.
I agree with you.
Like, how is he doing this? There's no gates opened.
Yeah.
You know, the power to snap bones and pop eyeballs.
Yeah, because when we're thinking it's the Mind Flayer, we're like, the Mind Flayer wasn't able to do that. It had to use physical
demodogs and
like what sort of power is able to do that?
Yeah, and I think the fact that this is the most mysterious and unexplained stuff to happen in Stranger Things for a long time is part of what makes season 4 such a success.
Yeah.
Because we have all this time, 12 hours of Netflix viewing to do to kind of figure this out. And we, we'll have another season to do it as well. So
I didn't realize that was such a question about like season 2 and 3.
Yeah, it was just...
I loved it so much. I know some other people weren't huge fans, and I just refused to even read all that because I love Stranger Things every season so much.
Well, I think we acknowledged it though too in season 2 and 3 when we were doing our rewatch. We said like we can't go back to the mystery.
Yeah.
And
meaning nothing will ever be as good as season 1, but that's not to say that the other seasons aren't good.
Yeah. I think season 4 just does a better job setting up a truly mysterious plot line than the other two. Yeah. Of course, we love basically every episode of Stranger Things. We even love The Lost Sister. Our podcast was pretty positive. We're a positive group.
Yep.
What do you like?
Nice things.
Nice things. All right. Well, we will be back. We got 8 more of these. We're going to probably talk an hour on each one, maybe a couple hours on the final ones. Who knows? It's going to be exhausting, but you have to do it. You have to listen to it. Hold on to your butts, brochachos. I'm Miles.
I'm Kathleen.
Good night.